We are now 6 episodes into Chibnall's dumpster fire, and just a note, this video is going out on Sunday the 18th, and it might be published either before or after the episode with the dumbest name in Doctor Who history airs. There will be a separate video on that tomorrow. This video is about the first 6 episodes of Series 11. There are also rumors circulating about Series 12 possibly being the last for Whittaker and Chibnall. That will also get its own separate video. Remember a few months back, Russell T Davies was telling us that there was a real buzz about the show, and that he kept being told by people working on it that it was going to be brilliant. I guess this series fits the NPC definition of brilliant, but I'd call it brilliantly horrendous. When they decided to cast a female doctor, they could have gone in 2 different directions. Cast somebody competent, make it interesting, and leave political bullshit out of it. But this is modern day sexist and racist BBC, and they decided to go with the second option. They also cast an actress that is completely incapable of carrying the show. But she's a sexist and racist feminist who played a sad and mopey character on one of Chibnall's other shows, so I guess they decided this choice was perfect. Instead of keeping the show politically neutral, or at least politically subtle, Chibnall and friends have decided to give us what is perhaps the most biased and politically charged bullshit I've ever seen come across my screen. They decided to cast 3 companions, 2 from the BBC quota list, and 1 old white dude who only seems to be there to apologize for every mean thing the white man has ever done. To be fair, Tosin Cole and Bradley Walsh are both excellent actors, unlike all the other actors we've seen this season. Give these 2 their own separate show, away from this crap. Then we have Yaz. Move aside Adric, Mel, and Dodo. We now have a winner for Worst Companion Ever. This category hire can't act. Her attempts at acting are like nails on a chalkboard, and her character is absurd. We are supposed to think that this weak-willed character is a police officer. Really? Well, Britain is going pretty hard on quota hiring, so I guess it makes sense. Now for the episodes. We open the season with the Snorefest, the woman who fell to Earth, a pointless story about a tooth monster. This is where we get the first hint at how horrendously bad an actress Whittaker is. At the time, the NPCs in my comment section and elsewhere were towing the line, of course she's going to be a bit off. She's just regenerated. Well, she must still be regenerating 6 episodes in. This is also where some started to question whether or not the show was focusing too much on certain demographics. No, I can't see the BBC doing this. Next we're on to what might be the dullest and most unoriginal episode of Doctor Who yet. The Ghost Monument, Chibnall's second masterpiece this series. Our brilliant writer gave us a sleep-inducing episode about some bullshit space race, where, wait for it, we learn that the TARDIS is the Ghost Monument at the end. Brilliant trickery, Chibnall. Can somebody give me one good reason why this person was a good choice for showrunner? When Moffat was hired, at least we knew he had written some of the best Who episodes since its comeback. Chibnall, on the other hand, has written some of the worst. This was only his 2nd episode, and it seemed like he had already run out of ideas. Well, that's if he had any ideas other than identity politics to begin with. Then we have Racebaiting 101 with Rosa, and oh did I get a lot of hate for my review of this episode. Sorry snowflakes, we all agree that Montgomery, Alabama in the 1950s was a racist place. Nobody is denying this, and nobody is denying the significance of Rosa Parks. But at the same time, this episode represented a major turning point for Doctor Who, and it wasn't a good turning point. It has become pretty apparent that the show has had a clear overriding agenda since Series 9, maybe even as far back as Series 8. A timeline which, coincidentally, matches up with the period of time in which the BBC decided that it was no longer interested in making world-class entertainment, that they were now about sexism and racism. Rosa made this clear in the way it demonized every white person in the episode, minus Graham, who again was only there to apologize for the white man. The white people in this episode were merely caricatures. They represented how NPCs view white people, mainly white men. If this were any other demographic, the episode would have been accused of committing a hate crime. I think it was really during this episode that Doctor Who stopped being Doctor Who, and all our fears were confirmed. Then things go from bad to, well, really bad. Oh, you thought Rosa was political. Well, you haven't seen anything yet. Enter Arachnids in the UK, Chibnall's stupid spider episode. This was the episode with stand-in Trump, and merely served the purpose of giving the US the finger. Again, Robertson is a personification of how NPCs see white males. This was the most over-the-top bullshit any of us have ever seen on this show. We didn't think it could get any worse than this. This episode was bad, really bad. Yet, somehow, Chibnall managed to best the spider episode in terms of levels of shit. The Saranga Conundrum is recognized almost universally as one of the worst, if not the worst, episodes in the history of Doctor Who. The episode was terrible on every level. The acting was horrible. The monster was ridiculous. The CGI looked like something out of the 90s, and the political messaging was laughably bad and over the top. Fear Her, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, Time in the Ronnie, The Twin Dilemma. All masterpieces compared to this crap. Then, last week, we got Demons of the Punjab, an episode whose only purpose was as a publicity tool for the experiment of changing the face of Britain forever by replacing its traditional culture with a completely incompatible culture. I'm relatively sure that this episode must have been mandated by the BBC. And Chibnall, of course, was more than willing to oblige. Let's talk about Chibnall. Out of the first 5 episodes, 4 were written by him, and 1 was co-written by him. When we look at these episodes and take into account the crap he wrote during the Moffat and RTD eras, this guy is probably the worst writer in Doctor Who history. We could call him the opposite of Robert Holmes. His episodes are not only bad, they are astoundingly bad. Contrast this with Moffat in Series 5. I know we all hate him now, but the man was firing on all cylinders at the beginning. If, say, he left after Series 5, he would be considered one of the best showrunners, maybe the best showrunner. Series 5 is considered by many, including myself, to be New Who at its peak. Unfortunately, the show fell off the rails with Series 6 and never really recovered. It did get a brief reprieve with Series 8, although in retrospect, I think that's all down to Capaldi's performance and has very little to do with Moffat himself. In contrast to Series 5, what has Chibnall given us for Series 11? A train wreck of epic proportions. Some of the worst episodes we've ever had grace our screens. The question is, why are the episodes so objectively bad? There are 2 explanations for this. One is that Chibnall simply isn't capable of writing good Who. This was obvious before he was given the position of showrunner. The second is exactly what happened to Star Wars: The Last Jedi. If you put ideology first and quality second, then you're not going to end up with a very good product in the end. Chibnall's only plan for the series was that he wanted to turn the Doctor into a woman. The only reason for this was virtue signaling wokeness. It had nothing to do with giving us something interesting. Indeed, I don't think Chibnall is capable of giving us something interesting. My theory is that Chibnall doesn't like men, and recasting the Doctor in this way was simply a manifestation of this. This was also Chibnall trying to prove that he is superior to everyone else. In many ways, this isn't about the character of the Doctor. It's about him. Doctor Who was just his unfortunate victim. Sexist and racist BBC policies gave him the perfect vehicle to carry this mission out. The casting of Jodie Whittaker is proof that Chibnall is not really fit to be a showrunner. Gender aside, he chose someone who is not capable of playing the Doctor, and who, coincidentally, was also someone he had previously worked with on Broadchurch. Whittaker is the show's primary weakness. Every Doctor has had a clear personality until this one. She seems to be stealing traits from previous incarnations, but doesn't actually bring anything to the role itself. It's even more telling that she seems to play the character differently in each episode, which provides further evidence that she really doesn't know what she's doing. You can see this in her line delivery and constipated facial expressions. The accent is also quite distracting, and the fact that she decided to keep it, even though it doesn't work in this instance, because she found using a traditional English accent to be too hard, should have been a red herring. Under other circumstances, I might feel bad for her, but I don't. Why? Because Whittaker has made it clear that she is a hateful, sexist, and racist third-wave feminist. She wrote off the entirety of classic Who as merely celebrating the white man's gaze. I guess that means she was perfect for Chibnall's version of Doctor Who. If there is one thing we can take away from all of this, it's that Doctor Who is over. This is not the show that many of us have been watching for decades. For myself, and I think many other people, quality Doctor Who ended with Series 8. And the show itself ended after Series 10. While I hate Series 10 and fully believe that it was the worst series until 11 reared its ugly head, it was still Doctor Who. Yes, the scripts were terrible. Yes, it was infested with identity politics. But we still had an actor that was undeniably the Doctor. And as terrible as it was, it still had a Doctor Who feel to it. There is nothing in Series 11 that I recognize. It's a marginally Doctor Who themed NPC social project. It's like a bad work of fan fiction, if it were written by third-wave feminists. And that's it for today. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and check out my other channel. And as always, everyone, thank you for watching, and have a great day.